Millwall, the Bushwhackers, England 1960s to 1990s. Millwall's Bushwhackers became the benchmark for English football violence that authorities struggled to contain. Police had to escort away fans from train stations to stadiums like they were transporting prisoners. Visiting supporters often didn't bother coming at all, which honestly was the smart decision. What made Millwall truly terrifying was that violence wasn't occasional. It was basically part of the matchday experience. The club's working-class South London identity, economic deprivation in Bermondsey, and siege mentality created a fan base where aggression became tradition. Even hardened hooligan firms from other clubs looked at Millwall away days and thought, maybe not. The Bushwhackers were organised, territorial, and genuinely proud of their violent reputation. "No one likes us. We don't care" wasn't just a chant, it was a lifestyle choice. Red Star Belgrade, Delije, Serbia 1980s to present. Some senior figures associated with Delije later became involved in paramilitary groups linked to documented war crimes during the Yugoslav conflicts. Jeliko Rajnatovic, known as Arkan, was a Delije leader who formed the Serbian Volunteer Guard during the 1990s Balkan Wars. The terraces became recruiting grounds for nationalist militias, which is a horrifying sentence to write. What's disturbing is how football organisation translated into armed conflict. Same structure, same banners, same tribal mentality, just with significantly worse consequences. Serbian nationalism, economic collapse and ethnic hatred all channeled through Red Star support. Even today, Delije display fascist symbols and stage violent clashes because why break with tradition? Galatasaray, Ultraslan, Turkey 1980s to present. Welcome to Hell wasn't marketing, it was accurate product description. Ultraslan created atmosphere so intimidating that opposing players described panic, disorientation, and genuine fear before kickoff. The 2000 UEFA Cup match saw 2 Leeds supporters lose their lives in Istanbul, exposing how dangerous Turkish ultra-culture had become with devastating consequences for both clubs. What makes Galatasaray's environment particularly frightening is the sustained psychological warfare, relentless noise, coordinated intimidation, and willingness to confront opposition supporters. Turkish football's passionate culture combined with political tensions and economic frustration created ultras who saw violence as legitimate defense of club honor. Boca Juniors, Lazio, Argentina, 1920s to present. Lazio aren't just supporters, they're an organised structure controlling ticket sales, stadium operations and club politics. Opposition teams feared La Bombonera more than Boca's squad because the Barra created a genuinely dangerous environment. Leadership disputes within Barras have resulted in fatalities over control of ticket revenues. The 2018 attack on River Plate's bus with rocks and bottles got the Copa Libertadores final moved to Madrid. Argentine poverty, corruption and lack of social mobility created conditions where Barras became criminal enterprises, with clubs held hostage by their own fans. Legia Warsaw, Gilletta, Poland, 1990s to present. Polish ultras like Legia's Gilletta represent organised violence with concerning levels of planning and hierarchy. These aren't spontaneous riots, they're arranged confrontations with coordination that authorities found difficult to prevent. They literally schedule fights like business meetings. Post-communist social vacuum left young men searching for identity, and ultra firms provided structure, purpose and tribal belonging. Gilletta coordinate with other Polish groups for nationalist demonstrations and plan violence with precision that damage Polish football's reputation internationally. Lazio, Irriducibili, Italy 1987 to present. Lazio's Irriducibili are Europe's most openly fascist ultra group. The Curva Nord regularly displays neo-Nazi banners, Roman salutes and Mussolini portraits. They've been involved in attacks on rival fans and immigrants, creating an atmosphere of genuine terror that the club has repeatedly been fined for. In 2017, they plastered Rome with Anne Frank stickers in Roma jerseys as anti-Semitic taunt, which is grotesque even by hooligan standards. What's particularly concerning is the institutional tolerance. Lazio gets fined repeatedly, but enforcement remains inconsistent. Italian fascism never died. It went underground and found refuge in football terraces. Dynamo Zagreb, Bad Blue Boys, Croatia 1986 to present. Bad Blue Boys went from passionate ultras to participants in armed conflict. When the Yugoslav wars started, some BBB members joined Croatian militias. The group's leader, Mirko Norak, became a Croatian military figure later convicted of offences related to wartime conduct. What's disturbing is how football organisation translated directly into conflict structure. Turns out ultra-group leadership skills are transferable to warfare. Croatian nationalism, Yugoslavia's collapse, and ethnic warfare all channeled through Dynamo support. Even today, BBB remain politically militant, clashing violently with police and displaying extreme nationalist symbolism. Fenerbahce, GFB, Turkey, 1980s to present. Fenerbahce's Genç Fenerbahçeliler created an environment of pure hostility, turning home advantage into genuine psychological warfare. Relentless noise, coordinated aggression, and intimidation tactics made Shukru Saracoğlu Stadium genuinely frightening for visitors. Turkish ultra-culture's intensity combined with Istanbul's political tensions and football's tribal importance created ultras, who saw violence as legitimate expression of club loyalty. The psychological warfare is sustained and deliberate. Opposition players and fans subjected to hours of coordinated intimidation designed to break mental resolve. Olympiacos, Gate 7, Greece, 1980s to present. Gate 7 operate with concerning levels of organisation and have been linked to serious violent incidents. They've been involved in fatal confrontations and orchestrated attacks on rival supporters. The 2007 incident that resulted in a supporter's death during clashes with Panathinaikos fans led to Greek football being suspended entirely. What makes Gate 7 dangerous is their structure. Leaders coordinate attacks, younger members carry out violence, functioning with hierarchy that authorities struggled to dismantle. Greek economic crisis and high youth unemployment created an environment where football violence provides purpose and belonging. Spartak Moscow, Gladiators, Russia 1990s to present. Russian ultras embraced extreme nationalism and racist violence during post-Soviet chaos, with devastating consequences for Russian football's international reputation. Spartak's firms became notorious for attacks on non-Russian fans and organised battles with rivals. A 2010 fatal incident involving supporters from rival Moscow clubs led to massive ultra warfare across Russian football. What makes Russian ultras concerning is the state's complicated relationship with them, sometimes tolerated as nationalist enforcers, sometimes cracked down on when violence becomes too visible. Post-Soviet identity crisis and economic devastation created ultras seeking brotherhood and purpose through organised violence. Leeds United, service crew, England, 1970s to 1980s. Leeds' service crew were among England's most feared hooligan firms during the 1970s and 80s, causing significant damage to the club's reputation. They coordinated attacks across the country, planned ambushes at away grounds, and built notoriety for sustained violence. Yorkshire working-class pride, industrial decline, and Leeds United's on-field success created a toxic combination. The service crew saw themselves as defending Leeds' honour through organised confrontations with rival firms. Police eventually dismantled the group through targeted arrests and football banning orders. West Ham United, intercity firm, England, 1970s to 1980s. The ICF dressed in designer casual wear to avoid police identification, showing calculated sophistication that made them difficult to prevent. They'd blend into crowds, then strike without warning, which is terrifying but admittedly clever. East London docks culture and economic decline left young men desperate for identity. The 1985 Kenilworth Road riot saw significant damage to Luton's ground by ICF members. What made them particularly dangerous was unpredictability. They didn't wear colours, didn't announce themselves, just attacked when opportunity arose. Chelsea? Headhunters, England, 1960s to 1980s. The Headhunters operated with concerning levels of organisation, including leadership hierarchies and planned ambushes. They'd wait outside away grounds, identify opposition firms, and launch coordinated attacks. The 1985 Stamford Bridge riot saw them cause significant damage to their own stadium during a match against Sunderland. What made them concerning was the structure. These weren't random incidents. They were organised operations with planning meetings and everything. Thatcher's government eventually cracked down hard in the late 1980s with the Football Spectators Act, but the Headhunters had already damaged English football's reputation as one of the country's most notorious hooligan firms. Partizan Belgrade, Grobari, Serbia 1970s to present. Partizan's Grobari are one of Europe's most intimidating ultra groups, defined by extreme nationalism, coordinated violence and a bitter rivalry with Red Star that regularly spilled beyond football. During the Yugoslav collapse, sections of the fan base became politically radicalized, with terraces serving as breeding grounds for militant ideology. Matches between Partizan and Red Star weren't just derbies, they were security nightmares requiring massive police and military presence. The intimidation wasn't just noise, it was the constant threat of escalation. Raja Casablanca, Ultras Green Boys, Morocco 2000s to present. Raja Casablanca's Ultras became infamous not just for intimidation, but for open political defiance. Their chants criticized corruption, poverty and state authority, turning football matches into protest arenas. Authorities repeatedly clashed with ultras, leading to mass arrests, stadium bans and violent confrontations. What made Raja's fanbase frightening wasn't chaos, it was discipline. Tens of thousands moving, chanting and confronting power structures in unison. Football became a platform for unrest. These weren't just football fans, they reflected deeper economic and political breakdowns, with football acting as the outlet. Modern football exists partly to stop this era returning.